All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Catherine from SEB Housing, and tonight I'm going to run the lottery for the 9 affordable rental units at the Elms Residences in Wakefield. And I'll get the lottery underway in just a few minutes. First, just want to say if you have any questions during the session, you can go ahead and either type them into the Zoom chat function, or you can unmute yourself. When you came into this session, you were muted automatically just to minimize any outside noise. Because this meeting is being recorded, it is going to be posted to SEB Housing's YouTube channel later on tonight for anyone who wasn't able to join but who wants to see the drawing actually take place. So first, I'm just going to give you some background information on the lottery applicants who applied and was eligible for the lottery, and all of this information is going to be given to you in a handout that is going to be attached to an email later on tomorrow. So everyone should already have their lottery application number, which is in the form of A.00, a series of numbers. So in this case, it's between A.001 and A.0044. So if you don't have that number, let me know. That is the number that is going to be called during this lottery or drawn. It's not going to be your name for privacy purposes. So there's 9 total affordable units. There were 41 completed applications, so there's going to be 41 households in the lottery. And the lottery numbers go up to 44 rather than 41 because we needed to remove 3 duplicate applicants. So just a quick overview, there's 6 one-bedroom apartments. There's 12 applicants for those. One of those one bedrooms has disabled accessible features, but there were no applicants who reported requiring those accessible features. So that is going to be that one bedroom that has accessible features will be offered to a household who doesn't require the features. There's also 3 two-bedroom apartments. There was 11 applicants for those apartments. Everyone has the same priority on that in terms of household size because everybody was a type 2 or a type 3 household, which I'll touch on in just a minute. There's also 1 3-bedroom affordable apartment, and there were 22 applicants for that unit. And there's also local preference or local priority for several of the affordable units. So if you answered yes to the local preference question on the application, your lottery eligibility email confirmed that you were a local preference household. So when the drawing takes place in a few minutes, you're not going to know exactly where your household falls on the waiting list, even if you're drawn first. And that's because I still need to sort the results based off of the order of priority on our waiting list, which I'll show you in just a minute. They're listed in the information packet. So there's going to be 2 drawings tonight. The first is going to be the local preference drawing, and the second is going to be the general drawing. And when I do the drawings, they're going to be done on a website called random.org. So they're going to be instantaneous. I'm not going to be, picking numbers out of a box like we have done in previous years. We are able to do these electronically now. So I'm going to be using a function on this website that is going to automatically resort numbers just to give it a random order, and that is the lottery drawing. So the first drawing is going to be that local preference drawing. So I'm going to include the 5 households who were approved for this lottery that either live or work full-time in the town of Wakefield. And there was 5 applicants that are local preference. And the second drawing will have all 41 applications in it. The drawing tonight, the lottery drawing, is just to give us an order of priority for when we're sorting the results onto the waiting list. So like I said, you're not going to know tonight where you fall in the waiting list or if you're at the top of the list or whatever, but this is a step in the process that is required. So I'm just going to share my screen real quick so you can see, I mentioned the order of priority for these waiting lists, just so you have a sense of what that looks like. So this is page 11 of the information packet. So if you applied for a 2-bedroom unit and you had local preference, you're going to have a higher priority on this waiting list than someone who doesn't have local preference, that has the same type as you. So the household type is basically how many household members you have in your household. So this is what I am using when I'm sorting the results from tonight's drawing. So just to give you a sense of what that's going to look like. And then to give you a sense too of what it's going to look like when I do the drawings, I'm just going to pull up the random.org so you can see list randomizer. And this is just rectangle here is just going to, it's going to have all our numbers here. Just for demonstration purposes, I'm writing numbers 1 through 5 in here. I'm going to click randomize, and it's going to reshuffle those 5 numbers and give me a random order. So when I do the actual drawing in a couple minutes, it's going to be the form of the lottery numbers that you are used to. So A.001 all the way down to A.004. So just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to click randomize, and this is how the lottery is going to be, the format that the lottery is going to be done in just a few minutes. So as you can see here, it rearranged those numbers. The first number drawn was number 4. So I'm going to come back to this in just a few minutes. I'll screen share again when I'm doing the actual drawing. But just wanted to show you that, just so, because I know it's a little confusing to when I, am just describing it without showing you. And so there was a question in the chat, I know. So is credit and background screening, is that the lease? So there will be a credit check and a background check and probably a reference check or a landlord, previous landlord screenings or check that is done by the leasing office at the Elms. That will not be something that SCB Housing is doing. So that is a later step in the process when you're doing your lease screening with the leasing office over at the Elms. So there's still, the lottery needs to take place, and then after that, after the screening, after the lottery drawing tonight, the SCB Housing still has to do your program eligibility screening. That's going to be our first step after the lottery. And because remember, when you applied for this lottery, you only self-reported your income, and that SCB Housing needs to require you to submit verifying information. So like pay stubs, bank statements, tax returns, that sort of thing is what we'll be asking for if you're one of those top households on the lottery or on the waiting list after those are sorted. So after the lottery, I'll be sending an email. This will hopefully be tomorrow morning with the waiting lists attached to it and more information on next steps. And you'll be able to see where your application number is positioned relative to other lottery applicants once I send those out. And then keep in mind too, if you apply for more than 1 unit size and you were approved for more than 1 unit size, you're going to have a placement on more than 1 waiting list. There's also a 1-bedroom and a 2-bedroom, local preference, and a general or non-local preference waiting list. So if you apply for a 1-bedroom, you're going to have a position on both waiting lists, even if you don't have local preference. So just a reminder, if you don't have local preference, you're still going to have a position on that waiting list. You're just going to have a less favorable position than households who have local preference. So make sure that you take a look at all of the waiting lists that could apply to you. And so when you receive that email with the waiting list, you're going to see that the top households on each waiting list, their lottery application number is going to be highlighted in green. And that's just signifying that those households are going to eventually be invited to move forward to the next step in the process, which will be completing your certification with SCB Housing and submitting your pay stubs and all of that. Because remember, in order to apply for the lottery, you just needed to self-report your income. And so I said eventually there because there is going to be a little bit of a delay in the process following tonight's lottery. So we hope to be able to invite households forward by the beginning of February. There's just some unresolved issues with the ownership and leasing office and all of that that we need to have squared away before we start to move forward in the process. So there will be, like I said, a couple weeks before we invite anybody forward to this next step in the process. But the good news is that the units are available now. So once your screenings are complete, there shouldn't be much of a delay with leasing up if you are looking to get into one of these units soon. After you finish your screening with SEB Housing, you'll then need to get in touch with the leasing office at the Elms to do your lease screening, which is what I just mentioned. And you had a question about, it could involve credit check, reference check, criminal background check, that sort of thing that you might be familiar with from other rentals. And if your household is lease eligible, you're then going to be able to select a unit and sign a lease with the leasing office. And just a note here, if you're not one of the top households that's highlighted in green on the waiting list after tonight, you're not going to be moving forward in this process right away. But if someone ahead of you on the waiting list drops off, if they're either ineligible or they decide they no longer want to rent at the Elms, you'll be contacted later on. So just keep that in mind. And also, a lot of times there's questions about, will I remain on the waiting list in case there's a vacancy? And the answer is yes. So every year, the leasing office at the Elms should be reaching out to everyone on their waiting list to confirm if you still want to remain on the waiting list. So if you're still interested in remaining on that waiting list, you will be able to remain there. So what that means is basically if someone moves out, if an affordable household, a household that's renting an affordable unit decides to move and they need to refill or release that unit to another household who qualifies for the affordable housing program, they'll need to look at their waiting list and start contacting households there. And then just a reminder too, if you end up leasing one of these units or any affordable unit, you need to have a recertification every year. So we just like to remind everyone that you want to maintain a record of your tax documentation, your income, just have access to your pay stubs maybe online, because you will need to recertify. So if you were to sign a lease, say for March 1st of this year, they'll probably be doing your recertification at some point at the end of about a few months before your lease renewal date. All right, so if there's no questions, I'm going to do the drawings now. I'm going to start with the local preference drawing. Again, there was only 5 households who qualify for local preference. So there's only going to be 5 numbers in this drawing. So I'm going to share my screen again now. This is a spreadsheet here just with the 5 applicant numbers that qualify for local preference. So I'm going to copy and paste those in just a moment, and I'm going to put them into the random.org. So you should be able to see that. Second here. Okay, I'm sharing my screen again. You should be able to see random.org. This is the very basic looking website. I'm going to click on List Randomizer again. And on my spreadsheet, there are these 5 local preference numbers. I'm copying these and I'm dropping them into this rectangle that is the List Randomizer function. So this is the local preference drawing for the Elms in Wakefield, and I'm randomizing them. So this is the order that it came up with. I'm just going to take these numbers and put them on my spreadsheet so they're a little easier to see. For anyone who had local preference or who had indicated that they live, work full-time, or have a child going to Wakefield Public Schools, you would have been in that drawing there. So just so you can see it there, this is the order for local preference households. And then I'm going to go on to the general drawing. So I'm going to go back to random.org. Just to get out completely and go back into this list randomizer. I'm going to go over to our 41 applicants for this drawing. And now this is the general drawing for the Elms in Wakefield. After I click randomize, you're going to see it on your screen. I'm going to show the screen to you so you're able to see. So this is the order of the drawing. Again, this still needs to be sorted onto the waiting list. So you don't know, number 8 here was drawn first. That doesn't mean that they're number 1 on any waiting list yet, because we don't know their household type or what unit size they applied for. But I am going to have give you just a moment here to see it. There's only 2 people on the call now, so if you want to let me know your numbers, I'll be able to look it up for you. Hold on one second here. Yep, so the affordable units are, there's a question here in the chat. So the affordable units are ready now, but they there is going to be a little bit of a delay between the lottery tonight and the next step in the process, which is the screening that SCB Housing will be doing for the top the top waiting list households. There just are some other things that need to be squared away with the leasing office. So your number, this person here, A.0017, you were drawn 4th in the local drawing. And then on the non-local drawing, you were drawn 37th. So these results are going to be put onto the I'm going to use the priorities that I just showed you on the waiting list here, or sorry, on the information packet here, to sort the results onto our waiting list. If you don't know your lottery application number, you're going to want to send me just a private message with your full name, and I should be able to look that up separately. Or you can email us at info@scbhousing.com, and I can get that to you. Yep. So again, just send me a message separately, or email info@scbhousing.com so I can get that to you. Where this is a recorded meeting, so you probably don't want to put your full name in this chat, which I wouldn't recommend. So if you could email info@scbhousing.com, I'll check the email now just so I can get your lottery application number. So you'll be able to look that up when the waiting lists are sent out, which will be tomorrow. So tomorrow morning, look for a email from info@scbhousing.com or from noreply@scbhousing.com. That is the email that it will be coming from. And you'll be able to look up your lottery application number and see where you fall on the waiting list. There's also going to be more information with that email on next steps. I went through it all tonight, but just a reminder, there is going to be a little bit of a delay. You should hear from SCB Housing again after tomorrow. If you're one of the top households on one of these waiting lists, you'll be invited separately in a separate email to submit all of your income, asset, and tax documentation so that we can do that full affordable housing program screening for your household. Because as of right now, you haven't been approved for anything but entering this lottery because we still need to verify your income through pay stubs and all of that. Any other questions? Like I said, just whatever email you gave us when you applied, check that email tomorrow morning. At some point, you will be getting the results with the waiting list. And thanks again for attending. So you won't know if your application is highlighted in green or your application number is highlighted in green until we sort the results onto the waiting list. So you need to email info@scbhousing.com and give me your full name just so I'm able to look up your lottery application number. And then when you get the email from us tomorrow morning, you'll be able to see if you're one of the top households on the waiting list, which will be highlighted in green. All right, so we'll be in touch very soon, and I appreciate you tuning in. Have a good evening.